Hello everyone and welcome to At Bearded Dad Stuff Can Cook. Today we're doing keto bread. You're going to start with some canola oil, 1 egg, 1 cup of mozzarella cheese, 3/4 cup of almond flour, 2 tablespoons of cream cheese, and your choice of seasonings. I'm using onion powder, garlic salt, and crushed red pepper. Your first step is you're going to take the mozzarella cheese and fold it into the cream cheese. The reason I came up with this keto bread recipe is a lot of the time when you're on keto, you just want to crave that bread. And a lot of the bread recipes I found online tasted very egg-based and honestly like shoe leather. So after you go ahead and fold in the cream cheese, you're going to pop it in the microwave. My microwave's a little off, so I added 10 seconds to it. But what you're actually going to be doing is putting it in the microwave for 1 minute. That's why I have it here for 110. My microwave's not the greatest. So the timer goes off. You're going to go ahead and pop it out. And you're going to end up with this lovely cheese mixture right here. Your next step is to combine your dry ingredients. So you're going to take your olive oil. You're going to pour in the egg. You're going to pour in that 3/4 cup of almond flour. And season it to your liking. So with me here, I go ahead and do about 4 passes with the crushed red pepper, the garlic salt, and the onion powder. And like I said, you season it how you want it. If you want to add a little bit of ground mustard, if you want to add paprika, do it the way you like to flavor it. It's honestly all up to your preference. So we're going to pop that lid on. Put it on my blender here. I'm using a Ninja blender. And we're going to go ahead and pulse it on the dough setting. And the reason I do the dry ingredients with the egg first is because I want to really make sure that nothing goes flying when I start to mix it. I want to make sure that all of that egg incorporates with that almond flour. And this is what it looks like after. As you can see, there's a little bit of residue, but that's from the seasonings. So next up, you're going to take your cheese mixture and put it in the container. I'm using my finger. I'm sorry, guys. My hands are washed. I just wasn't thinking. Normally, you would do this with a spatula. It's a lot easier. It is very sticky, but my hands are clean. Trust me, I'm not trying to poison my family. So you go ahead and pop on the lid again. Place it back on your Ninja blender. I went to go wash my hands again, came back and pulsed it. Again, on the dough setting, you want to make sure that that is completely incorporating. As you can see, because this is a cheese heavy mixture, that ball does tend to go and keep at the top of the food processor. So what I do is I then pop it off and then go ahead and scrape down the sides with a rubber spatula, just to make sure that everything's incorporating. Go ahead and place back on the top, and I go ahead and pulse it one more time. So the next step is completely optional. It's if you want more airy keto bread. So if you're making like a biscuit type mixture, or if you just want fluffier bread, I use a tablespoon of baking powder. My wife requested bread for sandwiches with this particular video, so that's why I'm adding the baking powder. So I go ahead and put the top back on and I pulse it a little bit more. Next step, you're going to get some parchment paper. And the reason why you're going to do parchment paper is, like I said, this mixture is very sticky, so you want to make sure that you are able to manipulate the mixture as much as possible. The parchment paper didn't want to work with me with this particular video, so I just flipped it over to try to keep it open. And you're going to go ahead and take your canola oil, because like I said, it's very sticky, and in order to make sure it doesn't stick, I spray the parchment paper with some oil. Give it a good coating. I even coat the mixture for a little bit just so I can get it out of the container. So I take the mixer off and pat it just because I don't want to waste anything. You know, I want to make sure that I'm cooking everything. So I scrape off the mixture from the blender portion. As you can see, there's still a little bit of seasoning at the end. And after that, I remove all the mixture from the food processor. At this point, I'm going to take one of the parchment paper and fold it over onto the other end, just so I'm making like a taco. And I'm going to go ahead and press down on my dough, trying to make it as flat as possible, trying to make it as smooth as possible, trying to make it to the consistency where I can get some good loaves or portions of bread out of this. An easier way to do it is once it's folded over and shortened, I go ahead and take a rolling pin and roll out a little bit more, just to get it as flat as possible to my consistency that I do like. You're not pushing hard, you're not trying to do damage, you're just trying to slowly even it out. And then you go ahead and undo the parchment paper. And what I do here is I go ahead and get a cookie cutter and I just cut myself some nice little ringlets. I do about 5 here. And I'm using a pretty good size mold, so this would of course give me a good, oh, I actually do 6, so I'm doing technically 3 sandwiches at this point. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and preheat your air fryer to 400 degrees. I have it here for 15 minutes, but you really only need to do for about 5. Then you're going to go ahead and coat your basket with your oil and place your dough mixture cutouts in the basket. I only had room for about 5. If I had a rack, I would put more in there. But at that point, you're going to put it in your air fryer and set it at 400 degrees for 5 minutes. If you can even do this in a conventional oven, but what you're going to do is preheat the oven to 425 and cook for 8 minutes. Once the 5 minutes are up, my air fryer does a cool down. But once the 5 minutes are up, let it settle for about 2 more minutes. And once they're done, the air fryer will shut completely off. And we're going to go ahead and pop those out. Look at how beautiful those are. Cooked completely through, airy, beautiful. The kids will love them. And here's the finished product. Make them with sandwiches, cut them into strips to make them for dip. But it's definitely something that you'll enjoy and love.